Welcome back, everybody. This is Rabith, and this is part 2 of course 4. I'm just going to be summarizing course 4 again. These are just some of the jot notes I wrote down while studying the course. So yeah, let's get started. This is nothing special. It's just something I've written down as I went through the course. Some of the jot notes that I didn't understand, so I just wrote them down. So I'm just going to share them with you. Hopefully it also helps you. So precast off-site concrete production is distinct from poured in place. The height of a commercial building may be limited by municipalities. It's called shade control. Site plan control affects both building layout and site amenities. Site plan approval involving a property in a flood plain would require Conservation Authority approval. Class C, an office classification for a property more than 20 years old. There are 4 classes of buildings. Class A+, an office classification for a landmark property with highest rent rates. Mall containing factory direct stores is called an outlet. The concept of intensification is designed to discourage urban sprawl. Zoning provisions typically include lot frontage minimums and overall height maximums. Retail center containing several big box stores is called power. Tilt up is a type of concrete wall that is poured on site and lifted into place. Curtain is a continuous building coverings that hangs as a wall on the structure's exterior. Density is a key factor differentiating various residential zones. Minimum gross floor area is best described as a zoning restriction. Total leasable square footage for a building can be increased by decreasing floor height. Equilibrium, a term describing the point at which a normal commercial vacancy factor is found in the commercial marketplace. Future municipal plans and local development incentives may be found in an economic development office. 3. A final phase of an environmental audit is phase 3. Material latent defects that renders property potentially dangerous must be disclosed. Absorption is the rate which office space is leased/occupied. 3 primary factors in an investment decision: need, risk, and return. A parcel of land located on the periphery of a shopping center is called an out. Threshold term used in a retail demand analysis, referring to the number of consumers necessary to sustain a particular retail operation. ASTM is an acronym for standard often used when preparing commercial building inspection reports. Retail mix refers to the variety of goods and services available within a specific commercial shopping area. A professional report that identifies, among other things, the location of building on a property is called a survey. BOMA. It's an acronym for organization that provides a standard method of measuring office space. VOC is an acronym for a building material that can have toxic off-gassing. Cost is the best approach to estimate value given a unique special purpose property. External is a type of measurement where a laser distance measurer is not typically effective. Work is a type of order a municipality may issue if fire codes or municipal bylaws are being violated. TSSA is an authority overseeing elevator safety. 3 is the minimum persons on a condominium board of directors. I hate saying condominiums like so much, and there's so many. Anyways, sorry. Moving on. Proposed or approval special assessments can directly impact the value of a commercial condo unit. Condominium Corp is a corporation without share capital. Reserve fund mandatory info inclusions in a status is a mandatory inclusion in a status certificate. A turnkey is a business that includes all things necessary for the new owner to begin operating. Common elements expenses are typically allocated by the square footage. Sensitive land use municipal objectives can impact proximity of buildings. A record of site condition is filed in the Environmental Registry of Ontario documenting the results of an ESA. The industrial market involves interesting interplay of investors and users. Mezzanine is a term for an added elevated floor space in an industrial property. Older industrial properties redeveloped for new uses is called an adaptive reuse. Gantry is a portable floor crane in an industrial building. Setback is a distance from lot improvements to the front lot lines as detailed in a zoning bylaw. An industrial property with an upgraded electrical capacity would have a three-phase system. Soft is a term for engineering costs associated with an industrial project. Proximity to transportation corridors is a key factor for a manufacturing operation. Type of industrial distribution center with high ceilings to accommodate vertical storage systems is called a high cube. A park intended for light manufacturing activities, often used as a buffer adjacent to more intensive manufacturing activities. Distance, depth is from a load-bearing wall to a row of columns in an industrial building. An appraiser will complete a neighborhood analysis when determining value for an industrial property. Brownfields legislation in Ontario provides a measure of environmental liability protection for land developers dealing with abandoned properties. An industrial building which can accommodate various uses is called a general purpose building. An industrial property at a lower grade level would be more susceptible. I can't pronounce this word. Oh my goodness. I'm just gonna spell it for you guys. S-U-S-C. Excuse me. Alright, moving on from this. No, I'm gonna skip this. When considering redevelopment potential of an industrial site, an important factor is demolition cost. It's funny because I can't read my own writing and I was struggling for a bit. Alright. A dry pipe sprinkler system contains compressed air. The area in industrial property used by trucks for loading, unloading, turning, and parking is called the shipping apron. Two perspectives on highest and best use is use as vacant or as improved. When the office area of an industrial building extends out from the primary building, that is referred to as a box-on-box design. An industrial HVAC system typically includes a condensing unit. The weight of a structure of an industrial building is referred to as a dead load. An area where the municipality is offering incentives or infrastructure to encourage development is called an economic free zone. The ceiling height in an industrial property is typically greater than the clear height. Adjustable hydraulic driven platform at a loading dock is a leveler. A pad transformer is comprised of several mat transformers. Live load requirements are set out in the code based on a building's use / type of occupancy. Venture capitalists provide funds in exchange for equity participation. Risk can be broadly defined in 4 categories: financial, business, building, and market. When considering affordability, it is important to determine Important to determine a commercial property's management costs. The buyer profile documents the buyer's preferences and needs. Distance from a building to the front lot line, as detailed in a zoning bylaw, is called a setback. A passive partner with no control over day-to-day business of a partnership is called limited. A partner that signs an agreement of purchase and sale in a limited partnership is general. It's a general agreement. Popular inspection involving commercial structure design and mechanical systems. Okay, I don't know what I was writing here, so I'm gonna skip this. Title is title related activity for locating and condensing pertinent land registry info. Wow, that makes no sense. Hold on. Activity for locating and condensing pertinent land registry info is related to title. Okay. Agreement clause that must be changed when making a counter offer by amending an original offer is irrevocable. Term for traffic flow out of a commercial property is called egress. An agreement may be terminated by mutual release or court order. Buyer agrees to take over a rental contract in an agreement of purchase and sale if it is assumable. A representation that extends beyond the completion date is typically known as survives. If a buyer submits an amendment to an agreement of purchase and sale and the seller does not accept, the original agreement is binding. If the seller of a commercial condo receives a notice of special meeting, the buyer may be able to nullify an agreement of purchase and sale. Irrevocable date that a buyer remains obligated to is a date that buyer remains obligated to. A unique description that identifies a property in an agreement of purchase and sale is called legal. So a legal description is basically what identifies a property. Requisition date is an agreement that sets the time to examine the title. So it's to examine something in the agreement, you are following the requisition date. If a commercial condo parking space is owned, a separate deed is provided. Schedules in an industrial property are subject to HST. Verifying present use in an important due diligence step to ensure a buyer's objectives for the property can be accomplished. If the seller of a commercial condo receives notice of a special meeting, the buyer may be able to nullify an agreement of purchase and sale. I think I said that already. Municipal planning provisions use buffer zones to minimize the impact of industrial property on an adjacent property. A freestanding group sign at the entrance of a shopping center is called a pylon. Alternative term for the RU factor is an add-on. Commercial lease in which the landlord pays all expenses is called gross. Anchor is a type of tenant that may be granted a broad range of uses and fewer restrictions than smaller tenants in a shopping center. Renegotiating a lease prior to the end of the term to change the current rental rate is referred to as blending and extending. Privity is legal premise which states that contractual matters are only enforceable upon the parties to the contract. Landlord's non-interference with the tenant, best described as quiet enjoyment. Rent calculators are based on rentable area. Rental rate is a price arrived at when completing a comparative market analysis for a wow, I can't read my own writing. For a lot, I guess. Alternate term for base rent is minimum rent. Additional expenses are prorated based on tenants' proportionate share of the total space in a shopping center. Short form of lease act permits the use of abbreviated wording in leases. The rental of land only is known as retail ground lease. New commercial structures must comply with accessibility requirements. TMI refers to taxes, maintenance, and insurance. Type of lease preferable by a landlord is net. Fraud statute that stipulates the minimum length. Is this fraud? Yeah. Is stipulates the minimum length of lease that must be in writing. Additional prorated rent payable by commercial tenants that frequently include HVAC, landscaping, snow, and garbage removal. I'm sorry, sometimes I can't even read my own writing, but I'm just gonna try my best. Alright, moving on. Duty other than a remuneration owed by a client to an agent is indemnification. Rent-free is the time granted to a tenant to occupy the leased premises at no cost. Expense stop is a maximum landlord contribution involving concessions for a commercial tenant above which the tenant is responsible. Assigning basically is transferring a tenancy agreement from one tenant to another. Overholding is when tenant is in possession after expiration of the lease term. Monthly sales figures are used to estimate percentage rent amounts pending end of year tenant financial reports. Fixtures that are necessary for a tenant's particular business are known as trade fixtures. Fax numbers relating to notices which can be included in the agreement to lease. If a commercial tenant fails to pay rent, the landlord can change locks 16 days after the rent was due. A landlord may offer early occupancy as a tenant incentive. Lease that a subtenant's lease is subject to is called head. Commercial leased space that is unoccupied but the tenant is still paying the rent is called a dark lease. Demised is a legal term for the description of the leased premises. Non-interference by a landlord is known as quiet enjoyment. Indemnifier is a person who takes on greater liability than a grantor. Site control agreement that sets out building and related requirements involving a particular parcel of land. Plottage is when value increases when combining properties. An approved nutrient management strategy is required to obtain a building permit relating to livestock housing or manure storage. Crop share lease involves the tenant receiving a percentage of total crop production with the balance going to the landlord. The sale of farmland is taxable unless an exemption applies. The exemption is a farmer uses a small portion of the farm for a living. The larger portion is subject to HST. Another exemption is a farm sold to relative, spouse, or a common law partner. Another one is a corporation, trust, or partnership sells the farm to a partner, beneficiary, shareholder, or a related person. A farm not used for business but for personal use. Farm receives a 75% tax reduction if the two provisions in the income tax allow for the income tax-free sale of a farm. First is a sale by an individual to the individual child. Second is a $750,000 capital gains exemption is available to exempt all or portion of the capital gains realized on a qualified farm property. Okay. Businesses that include all things necessary for the new owner to begin operating is called turnkey. Base year used as the benchmark when buying a business to calculate future payments. If a business is sold to a new owner, the terms of the sale could involve the assignment of a trade union contract. REBA requirement: certain documents must be received by the buyer for a business before the binding agreement is reached. In condition, subsequent notice is required. Notice is required to terminate the agreement. Using a predetermined interest rate to convert future cash flows into a present value is called discounting. The asset valuation approach may be effective when valuing a business that has a negative rate of return and or risk regarding its ability to continue operations. Shareholders' equity would be found on a balance sheet for a corporation. The listing salesperson must obtain from a seller and provide to the buyer, three things: a profit loss statement past 12 months, a statement of the assets and liabilities, a statement containing a list of all fixtures, goods, chattels, and other assets and rights. There are three earnout methods. First method is base period earnout. That is based on additional payments being made every year in excess of the balance due on the purchase of the business. Second is incremental earnout, based on additional payments being made conditional upon year-to-year profit increase. And then cumulative earnout, payment being made at the expiration of the term of the agreement with or without interest. A condition precedent can be waived. Both the declaration and description must be registered in order to legally create a condominium. A live load on an industrial floor could include workbenches, machine presses, and store materials. The weight of individuals is also included under the definition of live load. Asset valuation involves the actual physical assets of the business without regard to business operations and financial performances. A commercial landlord can terminate a lease on the 16th day after a non-payment of rent. Real estate is not viewed as a highly liquid asset. An expense stop refers to the max expenses that a landlord will pay under a lease, with the balance being the tenant responsibilities. BUR is an acronym for built up roof. Effective age takes into consideration how well a building is maintained and updated. Effective age, sorry, I just said that. There are fewer limitations when modifying a tree. Oh, sorry, it's not tree, it's free. Oh my goodness. There are fewer limitations when modifying a freestanding building, that is, the use with a commercial unit. The confirmation of corporation and representation form is typically signed by the buyer, seller, listing brokerage, and cooperating brokerage before the offer is being made. Threshold analysis relates to the population size necessary to support a particular business. Clustering concerns tenant mix. Anchor tenants, given their drawing power, can normally demand or receive a much broader use clause within the lease. The term agribusiness generally refers to larger industrial farms. Demised is a legal term for the description of the leased premises. Condominium corp is a corp without share capital. The financial value of a business could increase if the business has rights to intellectual my goodness, I can't read that. Assignment is a type of clause permitting a buyer to transfer their contractual rights to someone else. Green space is allocation for an undeveloped portion of a total lot area. Business sale in which the buyer assumes all assets and liabilities is called share. If a lender requires income participation when advancing mortgage funds, the lender would want to share in the ongoing cash flow net income of the property being mortgaged. Neighborhood shopping centers are usually 125,000 square feet or less than 20 tenants. During interim occupancy, the buyer pays interest on the unpaid balance of the purchase price but does not pay towards any principal amount of the mortgage involving the developer. Transportation corridors include both highways and railways as well as waterways. The right-of-way allows non-owners, among other things, to access and go across a specific portion of the farm property. Sensitive land use municipal objectives can impact proximity of buildings. There are three common farmland leasing agreements. Fixtures that are necessary for a tenant's particular businesses are known as trade fixtures. Tilt-up construction involves the use of large concrete panels which are poured on site and then lifted into place to form the building structure. ICF is basically an acronym for insulated concrete form. The condensing unit is located outside the structure. The confirmation of acceptance is signed before the acknowledgement. A waiver is used with a condition precedent, not on a true condition precedent. So a waiver can be used on a condition precedent, but not on a true condition precedent. Buffer zones provide separation between divergent land uses and are not limited to industrial and residential situations. Direct capitalization formula is V equals I O divided by R. So value is equal to interest rate divided by the, oh my god, I gotta figure that out. Sorry, I'm gonna get back to that. Next, mortgage documentation package have differing scope and complexity based on the financing package being sought. The non-resident seller must comply with the Income Tax Act regarding funds payable relating to capital gain tax. A curtain wall can include specially coated glass to minimize glare and improve energy efficiency. An out parcel offers to preferable locations on the shopping center site that can be developed for standalone business operations. The condominium's description includes architectural building plans. A record of site condition report documents the result of one or more environmental assessments. Deluge systems quickly dispense large amount of water in a very short period of time. A higher loan to value ratio increases the mortgagee risks. LEED certification relates solely to a particular building and does not assess the environmental impact of neighboring properties. Exclusive use clauses are commonly found in leases for anchor tenants. The Nutrient Management Act includes requirements regarding the storage of commercial fertilizers. Rental rate price arrived at when completing a comparable market analysis for a lease. Rental rate is a price arrived at when completing a comparative market analysis for a lease. Ontario farmers can receive 75% municipal tax reduction. I'd already said that. Mezzanine is a term for an elevated floor space in an industrial property. The weight of a structure of an industrial building is referred to as a dead load. Commercial condo are not covered under the Tyrian warranty program. The builder may provide a warranty in that regard. A mat transformer changes voltage and is contained within a cabinet at ground level. Wow, these were all my notes. This is not something in order, it's all random. I hope this helped. Good luck on your course 4 exam, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.